Hello, welcome back, and now we're in Zone 2 of the Toy Factory, and this part of Zone 2 is vaguely car-themed. Lots of construction vehicles and roads and stuff. This part is also the only part where we'll get a special goo power-up that allows us to shoot a heavy shot. A heavy, slow shot that deals more damage. And I don't know what this is for, because it never reappears. Maybe they meant to use it in more situations, but just kind of forgot. Because this is the only place you can get this goo shot. And I don't know if it's any better or worse than the regular goo shot, but the regular goo shot works just fine. You know, just tapping square to spam it works okay. I don't know how quickly the big goo shot, heavier goo shot I should say, breaks the fairy glass. I never found that out. Since this part of the zone is toy themed, we're going to be doing a lot of riding on packaged toy cars. This is the easiest ride. It takes us over to some trampolines, and we can use the trampolines to skip the rest of the dangerous stuff. The rest of the platforming in this zone won't be so lenient. I like all the tires and little gas stations and stuff. I think it really adds to the atmosphere. It's super cute. Oh, by the way, speaking of stuff that won't appear again, the heavy goo weapon isn't the only thing that won't appear again. This car we're going to jump onto that'll take us in a big loop-de-loop. This never happens again. This is the only time we ride a car like this. We never have to do this again in the whole game. I fell down, but we respawned up here, so it's okay. Yeah, for some reason you never have to do that again, not even in the extra sections. It's a little weird. I remember this part of the level really well, because I really like it. It's kind of hard to talk about, though, because all you do is dodge left and right real quick. If you touch any of the colored paint, or whatever that is, you die instantly. I think it's to paint the cars and stuff, probably. But I really like this section, and I like sections like this in other 3D platformers and 2D platformers. And I don't know why, I just think they're super fun. It's a really simple idea. It doesn't have a lot to do with platforming or anything like that. But I just always think it's fun to dodge things like that real quick, left to right. We're not in a point yet where the game's slides will have hazards, but we'll get there eventually, don't worry. So I stick around in this area and shoot goo at all the toy cars and the bunnies and stuff and all the enemies, but you don't gotta do that. You can just walk straight to the next area. I did this because I was under the impression this was one of the mandatory combat sections, but it's not. So I guess I probably should just checked. So now after I check back, because I think I missed fairy glass, but I didn't. Yeah, there's no fairies back here. Now we're going to jump across some more packaged plastic cars, but we're not going to be doing it for very long. The idea behind this platforming section is simply to hop back and forth between the cars. Like, you hop to the back row to avoid the sign in the front row, you hop to the front row to avoid the sign in the back row. But we're not going to do that for very long, because up here is a special area that only Stimpy can enter. And you remember how I said I like dodging stuff left to right? Well, there's something I like even more than that, and it's dodging stuff while climbing, while the climby thing is moving. Is there a word for this, where you're climbing on something, but the thing you're climbing on is moving, and there are hazards, and you have to avoid them while climbing? Because this is probably my favorite platforming hazard, and it's not even really a platforming hazard, but I really like these. I'm almost always great at them. So we're here at another master model chamber after completely destroying that optional platform segment, which is a good thing. It's one of the few things I'm really good at in general in life. But this master model chamber has Doofus Beaver in it, and I don't remember anything about that show. I know there were beavers in it, and one of them was blonde. That's it. That's all I remember. You know, I was wondering what I was going to talk about during the Master Model Chambers, and I was thinking, oh, I'll just talk about the cartoons and how I feel about them. But I can't remember this one. I can't remember this one for the life of me. I remember most of them, just not this one. Was it good? Because sometimes a lot of really old, obscure cartoons are really good, so someone should tell me if it's good. Anyway, we're back out here and we got a platform on those trucks again. Like I said, you hop to the front row and back row to avoid signs when they pop up. And that's about it. It's real simple. I mean, I guess you gotta do a bit of a diagonal jump depending on when you choose to hop off. But that's okay, because you have a lot of mid-air control. Real simple stuff. If you're used to the jumping mechanics even a little bit, that shouldn't be too hard. It's actually a lot easier than some of the stuff earlier in the game, too. So you remember how earlier I said I thought there was a mandatory combat segment, but there wasn't? Well, this combat segment is mandatory. And just like all the others, we're just going to smash the square button and pick up the goo packets and keep smashing squares some more. And that's about it. It's already over, I think. I like the floor, though. The floor reminds me of those little play mats you get, those little carpets that have tiny flat cities in them, on them. I'm not insane, right? Those were a thing, those little colorful toy carpets that had little cities and roadways on them. I'm pretty sure those existed, because I remember playing with them a lot, with with toy cars that would get their wheels stuck in the carpet, and then I'd wonder why they put roadways on a carpet when, you know, that's what kids are going to do, is they're going to try and play with their toy cars on the carpet, and they're going to get the wheels stuck in the carpet, because the carpet is a carpet, and you're not meant to roll wheels over it, or else it'll get stuck in the threads. It didn't seem like a very well-designed toy. This section where we jump over the laser hazards has a real simple rule to it. You jump over the red ones and jump under the green ones. It's real easy once you figure that out. Much less scary. Just when you see red, jump, and when you see green, duck. That's it. I like those claws in the background that reach out real close to the foreground. It's kind of scary because it makes it look like they're going to grab you, but they aren't. I like that. So when you see me spontaneously switching characters like we did back there, how I changed to Jimmy, the game doesn't have a quick switch function, so that's me going in the menu and then coming back as a different character. Anyway, you remember that section where we jumped on those toy trucks? And we had to jump between the top and bottom rows? Well, this is just that again. Except the signs are a little more complicated. This time there are blue signs, which we can't duck under or jump over. So instead we just gotta switch lanes. Which is fine, because there's a big arrow telling us to do that. It's real easy as soon as you remember the color coding. Red means go over, green means go under, and blue means you can't get over or under this, so don't try it. Right, now we're in another master model chamber. I got it out, I said it. Now we're in another master model chamber, and this one's got Tommy Pickles from All Grown Up in it. And All Grown Up is a spin-off series to Rugrats where the characters are all grown up. By all grown up, I mean they're teenagers. And the spin-off series happened because in regular Rugrats there was an episode that showed the characters all grown up and what they would be like. And that episode was really popular, so Nickelodeon thought they should turn it into a spin-off, and I think they might have misunderstood what was popular about it. People liked that it was a brief glimpse into the future, and when the glimpse stopped being brief, people didn't like it so much. I think that's the trick, is that you gotta do it real quick. Because I don't think anybody really wanted a full spin-off. That's not to say that the show wasn't quality, or that it was bad or good or anything. Because I have no idea of the show's quality or anything like that, I just remember how people reacted to it. But you know, now that I look back on it, I think people seem much less harsh about it, and I do think it got good ratings at the time. The floor vanished there for a sec, but that happens, no game is perfect. The idea behind this trampoline section is real simple. The idea is just to jump over the bars, but not too late, otherwise we'll hit our head on the next bar that's coming down. But that's about it. Jump over one hurdle and be careful not to hit your head on the one that's coming down after it. It's real simple stuff. Real basic timing. The reason I'm using Jimmy's butt to break these is because we don't have Goo Shooter right now, and I don't want to miss them. So we gotta use his butt. Well, I was just reminded that I can't really see it too well, but I think the melee weapon Jimmy uses in this game is the same melee weapon he has in Globs of Doom. Which is super weird for story-related reasons. But we'll get into that later. I could be wrong though, because the melee weapon's really tiny and hard to see. It could be completely different. Oh, did I just get the heavy shot again? I thought that only appeared in one place. Maybe I remembered wrong. I don't remember picking up the heavy shot. So it's time to jump on more trucks, same idea as before, to hop between the back and front row, but this is nothing, because we already did this before a bunch at this point. We did it once in the main level already, and we already did it once as Jimmy, too. I mean, we're doing it as Jimmy this time, but the other time it was mandatory to do it as Jimmy. It's nothing too scary, it's just everything we've seen so far all smashed together. Red means jump over, green means duck under, and blue means get away. That's it. It's all simple. I like the way this game does that, though. They introduce an idea, and then expand on it slowly as the level continues, like this. We already saw this idea before, kinda, but now it's even more complicated. Now we don't have to just worry about bumping our heads on the one that's coming down. We have to worry about getting clipped in the butt by the one that's coming up. The timing's actually pretty much exactly the same. The trick is not getting psyched out by the extra hurdle. Now, do you remember that section really early at the beginning of the level where we hopped on plastic cars? And it wasn't trucks, it was just a single line of plastic cars and it was 2D? Well, we're doing that again. This time there are no trampolines to save us, though. It's not that tricky, you only have to single jump, but you want to jump at the very end of the car. So that way you get the maximum amount of distance possible. As for the trampoliny bits, they're real easy, especially compared to the trampoliny bits in the first zone. This next platforming section probably seems really scary, unless you've seen it in other platformers, which I have. We're riding these moving platforms that give out under us at a certain time, so we gotta hop to the other moving platform before that happens. I don't really think it's that bad after you figure it out. The hardest part is jumping over the hurdles, not jumping between the platforms. That's the tricky stuff. And up ahead after we stop sliding is a hazard I've also seen in a bunch of other 3D and 2D platformers. This is one that used to always get me when I was little. Like, without fail every time. You jump on a platform that moves up, and it moves up towards spikes, but oh no, you gotta jump to get to the next platform, but if you jump too high, you'll jump into the spikes and hurt yourself. That always used to get me as a kid, because I'd wait too long to jump, and jump right up into the spikes. This is a classic platforming hazard. I don't know if it appears as much as some of the others in this game, but I remember it a lot from when I used to play 2D platformers a bunch. I don't play 2D platformers so much now. They're probably a lot less unfair now and probably have a lot less trial and error in them, but you know, bad memories. I've been trying more 2D platformers and I've been happy with it so far. It's hard to shake off the bad memories of the SNES and NES era of 2D platforming. So, this time we're riding an elevator, but the elevator's made out of these platforms that give out from under us. This one's just about memorizing. You're probably gonna fall the first time because you won't know which ones fall, but since I memorized it, I know. There's not a lot of memorizing in this game, but that's one place where it's definitely important. Then again, I think as of my recording commentary, I have the whole game memorized, but that's because I played through it twice, 100%ed it twice in one day. Okay, so it's time for more moving platforms that fall. Only this time, the hurdles come in two varieties, the red ones and green ones. Like I said, the game likes to take previous ideas and throw them together like this, and I'm a big fan. If you're looking for a bit of relief because this section's too hard, then as soon as you reach the trampolines, you can breathe easy. Because you only got to use the trampolines for the rest of this section. You don't got to use the platform down there anymore. Alright, it's time to get SpongeBob for another slide level.
Let's go sliding!
So I don't actually remember a bunch about the second SpongeBob slide level. That's not to say it's bad or anything like that, it's just, I remember the third and first ones really well, because in the first one you gotta get used to the controls and how precise they want you to use your double jump. So it's gonna stick in your mind, because it's when you first realize how hard these sections can be. And the third one does some really, really weird stuff. But, okay, I shouldn't say really, really weird, it just does some slightly weird stuff that'll probably throw most people off. But this second slide section is just more the first, really. So it's the one I remember the least, and I almost always get it on my first go. Unlike the first and third ones, which I goof up a bunch. At the very end of this one, instead of the walls coming from the sides, the walls come from up and down, which I think is a bit easier to time. But it's still a tight squeeze. the whole idea behind this, just like the last one, is to time your double jumps just perfectly. So this master model chamber has auto rocket in it from Rocket Power. And I don't remember too much about Rocket Power either. Like, I can remember a couple specific episodes, but not enough to judge this show. I do remember the video games though. I remember Rocket Power Team Rocket Rescue on the PS1, which was like a stunt-based Tony Hawk clone kind of game, extreme sports game, which is what you'd expect. And then I remember Beach Bandits on the PS2 and GameCube, which was a 3D platformer. And it was surprisingly creative and had a bunch of variety, and you could pilot a mech suit in one of the levels. I can't remember which one, but yeah, that's the thing. Beach Bandits was really creative and was pretty rad. Welcome back to normalcy, or relative normalcy, because we're still playing Attack of the Toybots. But, did you know that talking over, like, 27 minutes of footage is actually surprisingly tiring? It's normally a lot less tiring, because there's cutscenes to break it up, but talking over 27 minutes of straight footage is actually, a little bit tiring. It also reminds me that, that I don't get why people complain about gameplay length so much. Because when you're talking in terms of pure gameplay, even 15 minutes is a long, long time.
Great news! You have rescued 200 fairies, but there are still more to be found. Do you see this cardboard thermometer? It goes up to 500. You have only found 40%. When you have rescued all 500, I will reward you. What are you waiting for? Get out there and find the rest.
Even really good things like Gun Force are only 12 to 15 minutes long. Anyway, now it's time for those 2D hard pop and hard cop. Let's try this again. It's time for more 2D car hopping, but this time the trucks are here too. Which means we have to wait till the smaller cars come along so that way we can jump under the green hurdles. It's real simple stuff, you just gotta be patient. And then there's just some trampolines, no strings attached here. And I mean that, there's no hazards or anything, just a couple trampolines. And then we're back to more car hopping. Like I said, the zone of the factory is car themed. This is what you should expect. This is the stuff we've seen a few times before where you hop from the front row to the back row and vice versa, but this time the cars are different sizes, which makes it a lot trickier. You also gotta do some really funky angled jumps. But again, you have a bunch of control over your character in the air. So, if you fall, it's your fault. There's really nobody else you can blame but yourself. Now it's time for more 2D car jumping, and you may think that's something of a downgrade, but it's not. There's a key difference this time. The cars are moving away from us instead of toward us, which changes how we jump on them a bunch. Now we have to double jump instead of single jump, and we have to keep up with the car we're currently on. We can't just backtrack because we're scared of the hurdles. And once we slide down here, the cars are moving away from us again so we can resume jumping as normal, but these guys are coming after us. These guys coming from behind are really scary. In order to evade them, I recommend single jumping across the cars and only jumping when they appear, so that way you can use your double jump to get over them. Like this. If you do that, it should be easier. Not easy, but a bit easier. So for this one, you might be ready for mostly the same thing, but the trick is the hurdles are coming toward us this time instead of up from behind. You might figure this would make it easier, but I actually think it's kind of harder. Because sometimes if you double jump too far ahead, you'll miss the car you're trying to land on. And sometimes you'll double jump too short because you're worried about missing a car. Up next is another one of the exclusive TAC platforming sections, or I should say TAC exclusive. So we're going to go do that now.
I call upon the power of Juju!
I remember when I was younger, I thought it was really weird that one of the special character gimmicks was more platforming. But I guess the sponge slide's just more platforming too, isn't it? It's just really faster, a lot faster platforming, with a lot more momentum to it. So when you look at it that way, two of the special character gimmicks are platforming related. The third one's not though, but we haven't gotten there yet. So the unfortunate thing about the attack segments is that there's not a bunch I can say about them after the first one, because well, I already explained the idea behind them. The idea is to examine what's up ahead, and then after you figure out how to tackle it, you do that. It's like really simple, quick puzzles. You just gotta figure out exactly when you should be pressing double jump, and you got it figured out pretty much. That's not to say it's easier, that you won't die a bunch, because there's still the timing to worry about, but it's not really reactionary, like I said in the last video. So after you got it figured out, you got it figured out, and there's not a whole bunch left I can say. Which is a little sad, because I like these sections, but I also can't really tell if they increase in difficulty or not. I assume they do, but it's really hard to tell. I seem to die roughly the same amount of times on all of them, and I seem to get through them with about the same amount of ease each time too. A couple of them have unique hazards that I attribute specifically to that section, but aside from that, there's not a whole bunch. We can talk about how the background looks really weird and funky. It's like a robot jungle kind of thing, with like green rain and weird computer stuff, and like those windows back there are really trippy. I like those windows, and I like the skybox outside. The background just looks really nice. It fits the atmosphere really well. But that's all I got. That's all I got to say about this. So now we're in the master model chamber for Donnie from the Wild Thornberrys, and I don't remember a bunch about the show, which seems to be a recurrent theme here. But I do remember they had a crossover movie with Rugrats, and I distinctly remember that Nigel Thornberry is voiced by Tim Curry, who also voices Professor Calamitous, which is my favorite Nicktoons villain. And the more Tim Curry voiced Professor Calamitous, the more he started doing his Nigel voice. Like, you could always tell it was Tim Curry doing the voice for both Nigel and Professor Calamitous. But when Professor Calamitous first appeared, his voice was distinct. It was distinct enough, but, the more Tim Curry did Calamitous, the more his voice shifted toward his Nigel voice. It's very noticeable. It doesn't stop Professor Calamitous from being my favorite Nicktoons villain or anything. It's just a little weird. Then again, I don't get the impression that you're supposed to watch all of Jimmy Neutron in one sitting, or anything like that. I don't think you're supposed to take it as a whole. Even though I do that. And I think it works really good as a whole. It stayed pretty high quality throughout its entire run. Anyway, you may remember these hazards from earlier. And it's just like earlier pretty much, except some of the hazards don't have red or green around them. And that's because these ones move. So the moving lasers are a bit of a wild card, because sometimes you can go under them and sometimes you can go above them. But you can usually tell which, and they don't move too fast. It still would be nice for them to be color-coded like the other ones, though. Even though they move. But I'm sure there's a reason they did it that way, even if I'm not sure what it is. Okay, so there's a weird thing here where I get on this platform before the cutscene triggers, so it starts moving without me. You'll see when the camera pans up. Yeah, it's right up there. So that's not supposed to happen, but I guess that's a glitch they didn't really take into consideration. Anyway, it's this again, but faster. And I'm just as good at it when it's faster. I actually like it a lot more when it's faster. Gosh, recording this is taking a surprising amount out of me. Taking a lot out of me. Maybe I'm just super exhausted today for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, it's time for an extra section, this time with Timmy. So, it's time to combine two hazards we've seen before. We're going to use these wobbling platforms as elevators, and we got to avoid the paint. And I actually think this is much easier. Because, presumably because Blue Tongue didn't want to make this section too frustrating, they made it so it's a lot easier to tell when the platforms are going to fall so you can switch between them. And they didn't put the paint in places that would make it difficult to switch between platforms. So it's actually super simple. We're in the Master Model Chambers, and this one is for, I think it's Rudy to Booty from Chalk Zone. I'm not gonna say I don't remember anything about Chalk Zone, because I remember the theme song, and that's something, right? That's something. Rudy to Booty's a funny name. You know what, this isn't going as well as I thought it would. I thought this would go a lot better, because I thought I'd remember these shows a lot better. I can talk about Fairly Odd Parents a lot, but we're playing as Timmy. We're not rescuing Timmy anymore. We already have him. We're playing as him right now. Alright, so with that last model chamber, we're done with Zone 2, and what did we learn here? We learned a lot about hopping on cars, and we learned that I'm super good at very, very specific subsets of platforming. And that's pretty much it. Next we're gonna go rescue Danny at Amity Park, and do one of the things that's advertised on the back of the case, even though I'd rather not, but we gotta do it. It's on the back of the case, so we can't just not do it. I'll see you next time.